Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you today. Oh, yeah, the Big Ten is trying to trick the SEC. Is it going to work? It might. We'll see. We're going to get right on into this thing. And this is all about the Big Ten and the SEC. They're talking about a scheduling partnership where obviously the two conferences would square off against each other, which I'm all for, by the way. I think that would be great. But we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. And when you see what the Big Ten wants in return for it, you'll see it's nothing but a trick.
It's a trap!
It says Big Ten and SEC athletic directors will discuss a possible partnership in football scheduling, along with their preferences for automatic bids, 12-team playoff, etc. And it's all happening in Nashville, Tennessee next week. And as you know, the Big Ten and the SEC are the two big dogs in town, and they call the shots. The NCAA, you are no longer in charge. Sorry, it's just the world that we live in 2024. These conferences don't really need you, but they do allow you to exist and you serve a purpose. But, you know, just understand where your position is from now on.
Hey, Spike, how about we chase cars, huh? Does that sound like fun? Nah. Yeah, that wouldn't be no fun.
Now, the guys that stir the drink, Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, are going to meet. They're going to spend one-day meeting with all the athletic directors. Says there's hope that we can definitively move the needle and make some progress on different things, one Big Ten source said. The future scheduling partnership could hinge on whether the SEC eventually decides to go to 9 conference games, a topic one SEC source said hasn't been a focus of conversations lately. Some Big Ten athletic directors could push back on any agreement if the SEC does not move to 9 games, because the Big Ten already plays 9 league opponents. If we're all going to figure this out, one source says, we've got to be on equal footing. Equal footing. Equal footing. All right. Now, some of y'all are not going to be able to handle this because I'm getting ready to get on my soapbox and talk about this a little bit, this equal footing, and you may not like what I have to say, especially if you're one of the lower-ranked teams in the Big Ten. So, humongous, tell them.
Just walk away.
Yeah, you might want to walk away because I'm getting ready to get real with you, and it may not be politically correct enough for some of the lower-ranked teams. To be on equal footing, you've got to have equally ranked teams. Let me go ahead and tell you, you got one really good team, one great team in the Big Ten, and that's Ohio State. So let's get that right out of the gate. You got one great team. Let me tell you what the SEC's got. Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. The list goes on. You got one, we got at least 4. And don't you even dare say Tennessee shouldn't be in that list. Nobody wants to play Tennessee right now because Tennessee found a defense. And that's not good for anybody playing the VOLS.
Happy learned how to putt. Uh-oh.
So to be on equal footing, you'd have to have at least 4 great teams in your conference. You got one. Penn State's pretty good. I'll put them in the pretty good category, okay? Michigan, where do I start with Michigan? Y'all weren't crap till Connor Stallion showed up, okay? You were winning at 69% clip in a very easy conference. And then Connor showed up and magically you were at 92%. Whoopity-doo. How did that happen, I wonder? I can't figure that out. Well, anyway, and Michigan still got some good players that they were able to amass when they were winning all those big games, beating Ohio State 3 years in a row when they had all their signs. But you're not a great team. You're going to come back to earth, and you're already starting to see that. And then after that, there's not a ton of great teams in the Big Ten. You have improved a little bit. I will give you credit for that. Bringing in USC, Oregon, and Washington, that's good. Those are good quality teams. And so you have improved the Big Ten. But you got a bunch of teams in the Big Ten that are really no issue. The SEC would whoop up on. They'd feast on those teams, okay? That's just the way it is, just like we've been doing the ACC. You'll notice we've been playing these inter-conference games with the ACC, and we've been whooping the crap out of them.
Hello?
And it's just a fact. And we're going to do the same thing with the Big Ten. So to be on equal footing, we need to be on equal footing. So if you had a 9th game and you're a regular team in the SEC, that 9th game could be one of those big dogs. You want to add a Texas? You want to add Alabama or Georgia, Tennessee? How about an LSU? You want a good dose of that? Whereas if you're going to add a team in the Big Ten, guess which teams those would be? Which they don't need to. They're playing 9. But how about some of these juggernauts? You want to play Northwestern, Maryland, Illinois, UCLA, Indiana, Minnesota? I mean, the list goes on. And even Rutgers. How about Rutgers? Now, granted, they're better this year. They're playing well. But normally they're a piece of cake. I mean, it's just fact. It's just fact. So this equal footing nonsense is ridiculous. And what they're trying to do is trick the SEC to go ahead and move to 9. Now, if ESPN wants to pay us a ton of money for that 9th game, and each team gets a bunch more money, $5, $6, $7, $8 million more a team, instead of what we're currently getting per team, I'm fine with that. You want to pay us a whole bunch of money, that's fine. But if it's not going to be that, there's no way we add 19, because that's going to knock people out of the 12-team playoff, guaranteed. And what's that going to do for the Big Ten? It's going to put more Big Ten teams into the playoff, which is not cool. So this is nothing but a big trick. And what they should say is, we'll be glad to play the Big Ten. It's not a problem. But we're staying at 8 unless we get a ton of money from the TV rights. They want to bump that up, that's one thing. But otherwise, absolutely not. And if the Big Ten doesn't want to play us, so be it. I can understand them not wanting to, because that's not a good deal for them. You're going to get a lot of losses, and it's going to make the comparison not look so good. So this is nothing but a trick. So sources in both leagues told ESPN on Monday they'd prefer to have potentially 4 automatic bids each to the playoff, but you know the other conferences are going to freak out over that. It says, I'm for anything that gives us the maximum number of postseason opportunities, one SEC source said. I don't count bowl games as postseason opportunities. That's the SEC right there in a nutshell. They want to be in the 12-team playoff. There's also been interest in eliminating the role of the 13-member selection committee or eliminating it entirely. Says, I think anything we can do to take the subjectivity of a committee off the table is really helpful, the SEC source said. We may not be able to completely get rid of subjectivity. The more we can minimize it. And so Tony Petitti's idea of multiple automatic spots for a conference has a lot of value. I'm not sure 4 is the right number. There's also a lot of talk of going to a 14-team playoff, and that would be where the conference champion of the Big Ten and the SEC would get an automatic bid and a bye, and then you would let the other 12 teams play. And it would have to be that weird number if you're going to have automatic buys, because then you'd have 2, then it would go from 12 to 6. Now you're down to 8, and that makes sense mathematically. You can't do that with a 16-team playoff, because then it would be 2 and then 14, then 7. It's all weird. It doesn't work. Said sources hesitated to say any concrete decisions will be made next week, but Big Ten athletic directors have a regular scheduled meeting Wednesday in which they hope to prepare talking points that could produce real concrete things. So we'll see how this plays out, but if I'm the SEC, I'm not falling for this. You know, it's real easy to play 9 games when you've got a bunch of easy wins in there. You know, we got one Vanderbilt. Sorry, Vanderbilt, but most of the time y'all are a piece of cake. And then every other team will give you a heck of a game in the SEC. It's because we've got more talent in the South. It's just a fact. Our recruiting footprint is amazing. If you want to know where the best players are, it's Georgia, Florida, LSU, Texas. It's all those areas. You've got some great talent up there in the Northeast and the Midwest, but it's not nearly what you've got down south. So we have a ton more athletes that grow up rooting for their favorite team. And the SEC has a lot of money, just like the Big Ten, so that may help the Big Ten somewhat. But y'all are, you know, it's just not the same. It isn't. And I'm not falling for the 9-team trick, not doing it.
Nice try, Jan.
So anyway, sorry, Big Ten folks. You know, I'm just telling you how it is. I do respect the fact that you have improved your conference, though, by bringing in 3 good quality teams. So that ought to make you feel a little bit better. I'm not totally ripping on you.
Liar!
And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's remember to continue to cover all these big college sports stories and to expose any tricks that are coming the SEC's way. And I would do the same for the Big Ten. If the Big Ten was getting tricked, I'd let you know it too.
Sure, Jan.
And really, this may not be a good deal for you, because honestly, do you really want to play the SEC on a regular basis? That may not be a good idea if you want to get as many teams as you can in the playoff. Just saying. Ask the ACC how that's worked out for them. Anyway, right over here is the subscribe button. Hit this little button right here. Won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here, most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy based on your viewing history, algorithm, and all that. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay. Don't you try to trick us, Petiti. Sankey, watch him.